Greetings out there in YouTube land. This is Morris Man, and as always, I thank you guys for coming to my channel. And today I'm going to do a part 3 of the bass tab, because I originally did one called bass tab, and yesterday I uploaded a video entitled bass tab 2. And I'm going to actually do a third one because one of my subscribers left me a pretty interesting comment, and I want to go into detail as far as my response. So I'm going to do this because yesterday I said that, in my second and first video, that from polling other musicians that are multi-musicianalists, the bass guitar is the easiest out of the bunch. And I got a guy or a gentleman that his comment was this: interesting perspective. Are you a fan of James Jameson from Motown? And who's not? Do you think his parts were easy? Now, to use James Jameson as an example is really kind of unfair because for two reasons. First of all, James Jameson was a musical genius. Second of all, his playing style is very unique and nobody plays like James Jameson. And James Jameson was a jazz guitar bass player. And a lot of people didn't realize that the majority of the Funk Brothers were jazz musicians before they came to Motown. Joe Hunter, who was the band leader from 1959 to 64, was a jazz pianist. Earl Van Dyke, who became the band leader when Joe Hunter retired or left in 64, because Earl Van Dyke was the band leader from 64 to 72, jazz pianist. The guitar players, Joe Messina, Robert White, Eddie Chink Willis. And actually, Eddie Chink Willis even stated that in the documentary, Standing in the Shadows. He said that they were jazz musicians and they came over to Motown because Joe Hunter started with Motown and called these other guys and said, hey, there's a gig here that you guys might want to do. So I said in my other video yesterday, I'm excluding jazz music from my statement because jazz musicians play scales. They don't play patterns like most bass players do in this day and age. The bass playing style of James Jameson went away back in the 70s. Nobody played like him before. Nobody played like him since. And also, the style of music that we play nowadays does not warrant people walking the basses. And for those who don't know what walking the bass means, is you're playing scales. You're not playing a bass pattern like I mentioned yesterday in my video as an example, Billie Jean by Michael Jackson, just two bass patterns, da 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 da. So it's really unfair to use again James Jameson as an example because like I said yesterday, I exclude bass players because jazz bass players because that's a whole different animal from what everybody else does. It's different from what we do R&B wise. It's different what we do blues wise. It's different what we do rock wise, and and so on and so forth. So again, I stand, on my comment that bass is the easiest instrument to play, unless you're trying to play this new style bass where there's 5, 6, 7 strings, and you actually now become a guitar player. Because actually, the guys that have that many strings and playing chords, they're not playing guitar. But there are people that will beg to differ, because I understand things evolve and they change, but now the bass players kind of drifting off into guitar players land, because the tradition and the structure for all styles of music is the bass player is holding down the foundation with the drummer. He's not soloing, for a long period of time because while he's soloing, who's holding down the bass part, so I think a lot of people are kind of not seeing this evolution and this change, but it's quite obvious. It's just like the example I used yesterday as far as hip hop music. When Teddy Riley and New Jack Swing was in full gear back in the 90s, all these lavish drum parts and various percussions and snares. And then when kind of hip hop ushered in and New Jack Swing left out, they replaced all those beautiful compressed snares with sample hand clap. And I'm like, now it's kind of empty, just a clap and a kick drum and the hi-hats going as opposed to all these other things that were going on in the percussion spectrum. I noticed these changes, and again, change is inevitable. Nothing stays the same. But I'm going to wrap this video up. I just wanted to kind of comment and give, detailed comment on this gentleman's comment regarding regarding James Jameson, you can't use him as far as his parts are easy because they weren't. When nobody plays like him, even his son in the interview in Standing in the Shadows of the Motown documentary, he said he didn't realize how special his father was until he became a bass player and he realized that nobody played like his dad. The one finger hook thing, the elaborate scales, because those are jazz bass parts in those Motown songs. Because again, also James Jameson started off as an acoustic bass player. He was playing acoustic long before he started playing electric. And when he was playing acoustic bass, he was playing jazz because he's a jazz bass player. All those guys from Motown were jazz musicians. And they even mentioned that again in the documentary, how they were throwing these jazz chords into these R&B songs and nobody was catching it. And that's why they had such a unique sound. Because even Rick James, a lot of his stuff was jazz oriented, all these augmented and diminished chords, because nobody in R&B normally use those types of chords, because jazz music and gospel to me have their own language. When we talk about jazz, we say jazz chords. We don't say rock chords. We don't say R&B chords. But they have a distinguishable language. Same thing with gospel. They use chords that wouldn't be normally used in R&B. Would normally be used in rock or jazz. Or blues. So those two types of styles of music are just a style within their own. And again, when I make the statement about playing bass and it's easy, for what we normally do in R&B, what we normally do in pop music and blues, but those other two, I separate those because those are difficult to become and play. But again, my statement was bass is the easiest instrument because the stuff that we do on the R&B scale is we just playing a bass scale. A pattern. No, usually it's like no more than 3, but most of the times only 2. So until next time, take care and thanks for watching.